Hello, you amazing people. You're listening to the Marketing and Coffee Podcast with your host, Lijo Etup.
Welcome to another episode of Marketing and Coffee Podcast with Lijo. I welcome Devasish Auddy. The way I remember Dev is while working together in Nokia, he used to have this penetrating questions which used to keep asking me why that, why not that. He had almost like a flowchart in his mind till he got the answer. So that's what I remember Dev, a very detailed oriented marketeer. So, and he never used to stop till he got the answer for the consumer. Like, why will the consumer buy it or not buy it in that matter? So that's my memory of Dev all these years. So Dev is now the marketing head of HMD Global for the MENA region, the home of Nokia phones. To speak more about himself, I hand it over to Dev. Dev, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Lejo. Thanks for having me in first place. Uh, and, and yeah, thanks for that via introduction. It really reminded me of the time when we were together. Good times indeed. Just to kind of add further, so I have been working in the consumer electronics industry and the mobile industry for almost years, based out of Dubai, and looking at this whole most diverse and this beautiful region of Middle East and North Africa. And at time, actually, Nokia, it was also Middle East and Africa. This is an industry which is super alive, and it's a very, very responsive. And this industry has given me plenty of opportunity to learn and add values, and most importantly, it's shaped and refined my own personal value system. And what I have actually learned and realized, and then what I've experienced in marketing plays is such a huge role in this industry to take it forward, because that's where the consumer perception are formed about the brand, the entire brand equity, the entire brand love, but we all actually urge to kind of want to drive it forward. So at current role, as you rightly said, it's a very diverse region from looking at from Pakistan, GCC, Egypt, Levant, and North Africa. Very varied range of consumer insights, very diverse culture, and that's what actually make this space a whole more interesting. So yeah, thank you again.
Excellent. So yeah, and the thing about connecting people as a brand, I think never went away from Nokia. Coming to connecting people, these are some of the most challenging times of connecting people during this COVID times. People seem to be connected, yet disconnected. Travel, all not meeting people is so much of a difficulty, and mobile industry has played a huge role in making sure that people do stay connected. How's HMD taking it? What's the role HMD, or what is the idea behind how they're going to manage this situation?
So at HMD Global, our priority is the safety and the health of our employees, our partner, and our customers. And we have been following the latest guideline issued by the local authorities in the first and foremost. And in a challenging time like this, we are more than committed even to bring the best of the digital and the social experience to our consumers, and also within the smartphones. So we have actually announced a couple of new smartphones during this quarter, so that because to serve the best technology experience to our consumers during the difficult times, to ensure that they stay connected to their loved ones, and so on. So yeah, so we are kind of we try to stay, and we are trying quite hard to stay as relevant as possible to our consumers in a time like this.
Interesting to say that. So, as I keep speaking to different industry experts, there is no textbook, or there is no book that tells us how to do it. Uh, is there a difference in the marketing strategy that you used to operate before this COVID times, or and now that you're doing it, or is it still the same? Has the marketing mix changed for you?
Uh, I think that's a whole new world of questions actually you just opened up. Uh, I think it is, when you look at the time like this, because the markets are still in a different pace with each other in terms of some markets have they're opened up quite a bit, and some of them are still kind of taking steps to kind of get till there. Now, in terms of the marketing strategy, as you say, I think the first and foremost is what I believe at large is to kind of create that kind of a relevancy with the consumer, because and we, as you and me, we also have gone through our own set of the understanding of the cycle, understanding how the situation is, how it is actually impacting us, and that further kind of shape how our media consumption behavior would be, how our purchasing behavior would be, and so on. So as brand, what we have been trying is we are trying to kind of be relevant, first of all, being acknowledging the situation along with the consumer, being relevant over there, and then kind of quite meaningfully trying to kind of connect it to the need what they would be actually having uh, in the digital and the social space. So I mean, I can unpack it. It depends how you want to kind of take it forward. But I think that if a strategy, I think, would be just a one word, but it's a very broad word to kind of take it forward. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think your role is extremely challenging, considering that every country is managing things differently, and they're coming back or not coming back at different speeds. It's not one size fits all, considering your role of managing so many countries and so many geographies and the complexities of each of those countries. So I guess there is no single word or line of approach that will take care of everything. Uh, so coming back to the approach point of view, uh, so you have had this world when you had unlimited budgets as Nokia. You have lived through that phase of unlimited budgets as Nokia, and now Nokia is more of a startup, very smart spending, uh, the approach that Nokia is having. So, and I'm sure that a lot of people would love to know, like, how can smart spending still keep alive a brand for so long, considering that you have learned to adapt to these various cycles of spending.
yeah, I think you brought up a very interesting topic, Lijo, regarding the budget. So before I get into this whole smart spending part, there's one point I just want to kind of emphasize a bit more. I think the most important thing as a marketer, keep in mind that the budgets, they do not come from some magical bucket, right? So every single dollar which is spent by marketer, it gets generated by a lot of hard work by selling the product, and no matter which industry you are in, I think that kind of holds true, as per my belief. And hence, as a marketer, I think, and we are quite accountable for the organization to make sense that every dollar what we actually spend is actually driving the a measurable metrics, and that's where the measurable metrics come into the place. And this is also, I think, that as a marketer, our role has to be that we start looking behind the primary metrics, which is reach or impression on a frequency, and go a lot more beyond that, and see that what kind of a conversion are we actually generating, what is the engagement rate we are generating, how relevant the marketing is, and whether it is making any kind of impact on our brand equity or not, and how relevant we are to stay relevant, to kind of continue in the consumer entire buying journey, starting from the time they develop an interest in your product, from the time they actually ended up buying that, and even after that. And I think when you talk about the smart spending, is actually how smartly you are spending each and every dollar and make it work a lot more than what you actually made it work in the past.
Yeah, so that brings me to the next question, because uh, so how, smart spending and impressions and click-throughs and conversions and beta testing. So now the moment of truth of the consumer purchase has now moved online more, especially in these times compared to retail. Uh, Mobile used to be a kind of lot of touch and feel, getting to know the product. In the consumer journey, retail used to still form a big part of the decision making process for a consumer. Now, do you think or feel that the mix has changed? Like, has the online shopping behavior taken precedence over the offline shopping behavior, considering the mix or the way the consumer is behaving now?
Yeah, the truth is, this whole consumer behavior has been taking since past couple of years. So it is not something what is new. That this whole interesting word which comes in, and I'm sure all of us, we have heard it many times and we used it also. It is whole ROPO. You research online and you purchase offline. So it is already there. It exists from quite some time. But having said that, in a time like this, in the recent time, the pace of this change has accelerated massively. And so as a brand, we are quite committed to bring the right kind of a partnership at the market level to reach our fans. And that would mean adopting a more of a cross-selling as a strategy, as this will continue to gain more traction and more importance in the time to come. And so it's not either or, but in terms of, yeah, the way the consumer is, because now, and if you look at the entire this whole omni-channel experience, the demand could come from anywhere, and we also should be ready. The demand fulfillment also could happen from anywhere. So it is going to be very much of a mixed bag. But yes, you are right, absolutely, in quoting that this the pace of this change, it has got a certain acceleration. And I think as a brand, we need to realize that, acknowledge it, and then and make sure that we are actually there with the consumer, where the consumer is actually looking for us.
Interesting, you made cross-selling. Can you elaborate a little more on how does cross-selling or what kind of cross-selling would help the industry or mobile phones?
So I think it's a beyond mobile phone, right? So when you are actually looking at when you talk about the cross selling, right? So you can consumer, first of all, as I said earlier, the consumer, they are looking for the product, they research for the product, they are very well informed on the online space, and they used to go and buy it in the offline space, and some of them they do used to buy in the online space. So when you look at this whole thing, the consumer could come through either through our web traffic, or they can just be a store walk-in. So as a brand, I think we need to start seeing this. If you talk about this whole omni-channel thing, that whether the demand is coming from the offline and the online fulfillment is happening, or the demand is coming from the online and the offline fulfillment happens. So that's what I technically mean by cross-selling. So traffic, the consumer could come from anywhere, from the either from the web in the online space or in the physical space. But we have to see how the demand could be fulfilled either through a physical space, or it is done through our own e-commerce channel, or through the partner's e-commerce channel. So that's what I meant by cross-selling. It is no longer a straight linear journey.
Okay, interesting. Do you feel that in the near future, so as you said, research online and buy offline, purchase offline, do you feel that there could be an opportunity of brands exploring research online and buy online only models? Or do you think it's too early stages? The consumer has not reached that stage where that's not a possibility, that online exclusive models where it's only you can only research about it online and you can only buy it online, removing the physical distribution part. Do you feel that kind of a change, disruption will happen at all?
Uh, I think, again, as this model already exists today, Lijo. So if you look at it, if you just look at the channel, the entire, this whole e-com and the physical channel, at the top of that pyramid, if you just kind of visualize a pyramid, top of the pyramid, it is the brand's own e-commerce channel, which kind of exists today, right? There are a lot of brands, they have set up their own e-commerce channel. And if you see in the middle of that pyramid is where you have the pure players, right? These pure players they have a consumer actually goes and then they research the product over there, and they actually buy the product over there. And then there are, below that, there are these omni-channel players. So they have their physical stores, and they also have their online channels. So now, in what I have actually been experiencing, that the top two channels, they are pretty straightforward. They are completely into the online space. But I'm actually now expecting, with the current situation, and the whole this changing and accelerated consumer online behavior, I'm expecting this omni-channel player, they would actually step up the game a lot more stronger in the online space. And I see, if that done properly, they would be the key driving force to actually take this entire omni-channel experience forward with the consumer. But as I said earlier, it is not either or. They both are going to coexist. But yes, the balance might change a bit as we actually move forward.
So that's the thing about, and I think that no industry is will not shift towards that. I think that very few, like one of the clients that I work for is the grocery channel. Even groceries, which used to be a huge challenging as a category, and I have had conversation with this, where you as a consumer also, one of the biggest challenging category, people are moving into online behavior for groceries. And I think that is true for a lot of the industries. So for the listeners, does Nokia have its own e-commerce channel here available for them to buy phones, or do you only look at partner sites to sell the phones?
So at the moment in MENA, we don't have our e-com, but we are definitely exploring that part as well. But we definitely do have very strong partnership with both omni-channel players as well as the pure players in the online e-commerce space. And we would continue driving our and leverage our relationship with them so that we can reach out to the wide spectrum of the consumers, those who are looking for us, because it's up to consumer where they want to go and find us. And as a brand, we want to make sure that we stay relevant and we are discoverable in any of these channels.
Anything you want to summarize this conversation with, like with all this experience of Sony, Canon, though we have a conversation about that, but got kind of lopsided in towards mobile phones, since both of our passion lie there at some point of time. But from an overall marketer's point of view, what are the key things that I think we can summarize this conversation with?
Just to kind of summarize that, it's if you look at one of those hottest trend which is happening around us, and some markets are already there, some markets are actually going to catch up, and some would do eventually. So I think in the marketing space, as a marketer, first of all, if you just summarize, I think we should be very wary of the money what we actually spend. We need to be very, very relevant in terms of our spending. It's about time we have to start looking at beyond the primary metrics. We have to start seeing that whatever the money we spend, it is completely measurable. It generates engagement. It is relevant to the consumer. The content what we create, and I think in terms of our spending, I see it moving a lot more towards in the online space, whether it's in the paid media, paid digital media, or in the social paid space. But as a marketer, I think I would summarize that, as a marketer, we need to create a lot more shoppable post, a shoppable content, right? So it has to be a mixed bag of where you still drive your brand essence, but at the same time, which makes you discoverable, but at the same time, which also kind of takes consumer a journey further. I think for also within the content space, I see the content has to be a lot more visual and interactive. Uh, and personalization of the content, I think that's going to play a big role. So, the email marketing is something which has been happening since years, since a decade. I have seen the email marketing, but it's a time when you do this entire email marketing, when you see what kind of a response rate you actually get, and the people and the consumer, when they are responding to you, how you take it to the next level, where you actually start creating a lot more personalized content for them. Because what I see the consumer in this time is they would be a lot more responsive, something which they can relate with, not something which comes out very, very generic to you. So just having a price and a spec, that kind of like a marketing, I think something which brands needs to kind of move away from, and create a true value for the consumer by creating a lot more relevancy, a lot more personalization. So these are the few things what I actually see which would be coming up. But as I said actually in the beginning, this is a very dynamic and a very thriving industry. We keep reinventing ourselves uh, almost quite frequently. And I think it's something which you need to kind of stay at the edge, because at the end of the day, consumer is the king, consumer is our fan. And we need to kind of make sure that we walk through with this entire magical brand funnel, or a sales funnel, what we call it, and we travel with them along the journey.
Yeah, and I think that is the biggest challenge for you as a job, because the innovation cycle of the product is like 6 months. Things change every 6 months. So, and the consumer, you have to keep yourself updated, and like there's no resting day, where the innovation cycle is like 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and where you can rest and, okay, this is enough for me to take care of my 2 years. It's enough to take you forward for 6 months. So it was great having this conversation, Dave. I'm sure people will find value out of this. And maybe after 6 months, we'll see what is the new change in strategy that you would have brought in. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you very much, Ijo. Thanks for getting it. That's the beauty of the industry, and I think that's the way we grew to love it, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.